Everything we do here at GC Video News, we have facts and documentation to back up what we put out. It's one thing that we have always prided ourselves on. I have always loved politics. Why? I don't know. I just do. I love politics. Here in Gallatin County, we're a small community. And this year I've seen something in the politics that I had thought that I would never see. I never thought that people could be so cold and heartless as they have been in the politics. I agreed to stay out of the fall races and to not support candidates one way or the other. Just like during the spring race, we agreed not to use the video news. But when I received some information the other day, and then I received a flyer in the mail, which I'm sure most of the residents of Gallatin County received this flyer. It saddened me to think that people in this county, to promote an agenda or to feel that they wasn't good enough or qualified enough for a job, that they've had to resort to using the children and the tragedies in our community to promote their own agenda to help them get elected. As someone who has lived in Gallatin County, I would like to be the first to apologize to the families that was involved in this. You have no place in the politics in this county. At GC Video News, we have always said, me, my wife, who owns GC Video News, the people that work with GC Video News, we choose to put ourselves in the public. The politicians choose to put themselves in the public. Their children, their wives do not. I always said that they are off limits. I sat back and I watched, and it amazed me how well that everyone done. But as usual, once the last newspaper in the county goes out, people think they can run what they want, and that way people can't respond. I've always been told not to take things by what people tell you, but to research it for yourself. And over the years, I've learned that to be fact. As I stated before, after the primary elections, I had several people contact me and ask me to stay out of the fall races, which I agreed to. But now I'm going to tell the people in the county a story. As I've said, everything that we have the proof to back it up. I'm going to read some because I wrote down what I wanted to say, but I'm going to show you the documentations and the facts of it. I don't understand why certain people felt and didn't understand the rules of politics in the video news. I've told them and told you, as I stated earlier, people's wives and children are off limits. By law, I'm not allowed to give people's IP address, or if they set up a username, I'm not allowed to tell who that username is. I never have, nor will we ever on GC Video News. It's a place for people to come, say what they do without the fear of retaliation. But it saddens me to know that politics has went as low as it did here lately in this county. But when someone hands me something that is not put on the video news, then I can use it however I see fit. When someone wants to go and open an account under GC Video News' name on a site that I had never even heard of, Snapchat, when somebody wants to come onto our forum and post a video of a minor child, then you've crossed the line with me. Because, like I said before, I told you to keep the children out of the politics. So now it's my turn. So now I'm going to educate the people in Gallatin County on a few things, because I haven't got me an education as I've researched this. I'm sorry I'm this late getting this video up, but I had a planning and zoning meeting tonight, and then I also had I wanted to make sure everything that I had was correct. But I'm just going to tell you part of the story, because I'm going to finish this up as soon as the elections are over also. So here it goes. Ben Wright, who was a 17-year-old minor. Yes, I do have permission to use his name. A 10-second video was taken of him holding what appears to be a beer can. Let me teach you a little bit about video. When a video is taken, it has a signature. And every time the video is copied, it lets you know what copy you received. I was given copy 2 of this video. I was asked if the video news would like a copy on 10/27 at 08:27 a.m. Yes, I did want it, but not for what they thought. Do not ever use GCVideonews.com's name to set up an account because you're too big of a coward to use your own name and put your own name under it. And yes, you're a coward. Yes, it made me mad people used our name. But I was still going to stay out of it. In everything we do, there's a point of no return. That point was crossed the other day when I received this in an email. Once again, a person used one of our children in the tragedy of a family who was good, hard-working people in our community. Today marks the anniversary of that tragic night. Our prayers go out to the Spade family. And it disgusts me that people think it is okay to use such an awful event to push their own political campaigns and their own hidden agendas. If a person cannot win on their own platform, then they don't need to run. And they don't need to be in office in Gallatin County. If you have to use our children in this community to play on the voters, then you don't need to be running. Just that plain and simple. You don't need to hold an office if you have to use children to obtain that office. Our children are off limits, the same as yours are, and I would do the same thing for you if it was them put in this situation and someone tried to use them. Here is what her brother had to say about the whole issue. What I'm going to tell you is fact. It is public record. I had never even looked at this till the other day. I was always told things here and there, but never checked the facts until now. If we like them or not, these are the facts. On November 3rd, 2007, Samantha Spade was killed in a DUI wreck by an intoxicated driver, Matthew Niels Miles. An awful tragedy that changed the lives of two families here in our small community forever. People always said it could have been avoided if Spike Wright would have done his job and Neil Miles didn't have license, or if he would have put him in jail for other DUI charges. As I'm sitting here working on this, I'm looking at the card everyone received in the mail showing 24 traffic violations by Mr. Miles. And it says multiple other DUIs. Even if your record is expunged, you are assigned a federal number that can't be removed. So here's what we found. What I have here, these are all Mr. Miles' court documents for the state of Kentucky. And I went back in them because I wanted to compare these to this. I got me an education. As I said, even if your record is expunged, you still get assigned a federal number and you cannot remove a DUI off your record. Because even though it shows expunged, that federal number is still there, and if you run that number, then it will show. I looked at the time that Spike Wright was in office, the cases that he would have heard that came before him. One was speeding, one was reckless driving, one was AI, one was waived extradition to Indiana, another speeding, another one was running a stop sign or basically disregarding a traffic device. The last one on his record, murder. As I look through these documents, here's what I have found. On this, the first document here on Neil Miles, and these are in no date or order. I'm just going to tell you the facts and what is in the court record on Commonwealth of Kentucky versus Matthew Neil Miles. Complaining witness Jason Jones. Attorney James G. Edward. Charge 1 original. OBS. Fugitive from another state warrant required. That's where Mr. Miles had his DUI in Indiana. And he waived extradition so he could go back to Indiana on a warrant. The next one is Commonwealth versus Matthew N. Miles. Complaining witness KSP Butts. Original charge speeding 15 miles over the limit. Cost $128 state traffic school. The next one was a complaint by Jeff Macy disregarding a stop sign. Now, out of all the things that is on that card, this is nowhere near this stack of papers. This one right here, it was dismissed for disregarding the stop sign. The next one, Jason Baker, Warsaw PD. Charge 1, original alcohol intoxication in a public place, first and second offense. Pleaded guilty, cost $128 and paid the fine. The next one, reckless driving, 25 miles an hour over. And anyone that knows that's ever had a ticket over a certain amount, you are charged with speeding and reckless driving. It was by Brent McDonald, Youngstown County Sheriff's Office. Cost $150, fine $100. The next one we have here, Commonwealth of Kentucky versus Matthew Neal Miles. His attorney was Edward Bourne. KSP Larry Davis, plain witness. Speeding, 25 miles an hour over the limit, citation. Pleaded guilty, referred to state traffic school. On the two that was referred to state traffic school, anyone that's went to court, you get a speeding ticket, you can ask to go to state traffic school. The two on here that was referred to state traffic school was 3 years apart. And believe me, by no means or way am I taking up for anybody here. I'm just telling people facts. So that was the two that was referred to state traffic school. So here's what we got. We've got a speeding, a reckless driving, pleaded guilty on a speeding, guilty on a reckless driving, AI, where he had the DUI, he waived the extradition to Indiana, so he'd be sent back to Indiana. The speeding, running the stop sign, and then of course his last charge was the murder. The only citation that was ever dismissed by Spike Wright was failure to stop at a stop sign. All these other charges, he pled guilty to them. The two charges, he went to state traffic school on because he was eligible to do them. As far as DUIs in Kentucky, the only time that Mr. Miles had a DUI in Kentucky was the night that he killed the young lady up on 127. I sit and read this card. It says 2000 speeding, amend it down. 2000 speeding. 2001 speeding, 17 over. 12 over, amend it down. 2001 assault, dismissed. 2002 speeding, 17 over. 2002 assault, dismissed. 2002 alcohol intoxication. 2002 DUI, amended down. 2002 reckless driving, dismissed. I can keep going down through this card. Here's the problem I have with this card right here. As I stated before, it's showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 charges on here. And then it says multiple other DUI and similar crimes in neighboring states. Anybody that's watching the video news knows when we report things, we have facts. From here down is Mr. Miles' record. The only state Mr. Miles had a DUI pending in was Indiana, over in Switzerland County. And that was at 3-something in the morning. He come on to Kentucky, put a warrant out for him. He waived extradition and went back. The next DUI that Mr. Miles had, of course, was the night that he hit, as I stated, he hit and killed the girl. Don't believe what people sent out on these postcards. So after I read these, I went from the 20-something there down to what the state has on record. And remember, you cannot get a DUI off your record. You can have your record expunged, but you still have a federal number. So I went looking for these too, to make sure that we didn't miss nothing. So, from these 22 on this card, plus, as it states, multiple other DUIs of similar crimes in neighboring states, we're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The people watching this video, these are state records. These are facts. This here sheet here is just pretty much a summary sheet. As I stated before, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that Spike Wright would have heard while he was in office. The only thing that Spike Wright ever dismissed against Neil Miles that come before him was running a stop sign. And as I stated, the other 2 was referred to traffic school because he was eligible. Now, I got curious about something on this card. I thought, who in the world would use a child to try to further gain in the politics? On any political campaign, you have to put who a treasurer and stuff is, or who paid for something. Problem was, when you try to read it on the card here, at the bottom, you can't even hardly read it because the type of text it was wrote in. Once again, I'm going to call whoever done that a coward, because you are. I took one of my cameras because we can zoom in with it, and I pulled up the name on it. The name on it is P. Christ. So, I ran a check on that name. Come up nothing. I got on the internet and I thought, I'm going to go to Bing. Now I want everybody to go to Bing right now that's watching this and type in the PKRAASC, and that's what it looks like that's on here. And it should come up. It's a phrase for losing a baby. And then the 402 Black and Baker Lane, when I seen it, I thought, well, I know where 402 Black and Baker Lane is. I recognized it. I used to live off Zorn Avenue down in Louisville. That's not too far from Zorn Avenue. Where this address is, it's up from the Lucas Grove Park System in Louisville, up from where the General George Rogers Clark statue is located at. But I went ahead, got some aerial shots of the area, and this is the house that sits at the 402 Black and Baker Lane. Basically, what I'm trying to tell everybody is, this was made up. This card here. If you check PVA records, this person does not exist at the address that claims it's on this card. One time, Mr. Wright dismissed a case where he ran a stop sign. His DUIs was in Indiana and was waiting for a court date on that tragic night. Kentucky judicial system has no say over the Indiana judicial system. I took several notes here and I'm looking through my notes. But while I'm looking through here, I'm going to say something. This was by far the most tasteless campaign ad I've ever saw. For someone to try to use the tragedy of our children in our community for your or a friend of yours own political gain. If anyone that gets on here and says that they didn't have a beer, they didn't do something that they wasn't supposed to before they turned 18 years of age, I'm gonna probably call into question your judgment also. I know very few people that didn't do stuff they weren't supposed to do, and especially when you're 17 years old. But I would have to question why a school board member or a school board member's wife is making copies of this video and distributing them to people to have. You can't deny it. It's right there. It was caught on your phone when you was filming off your phone. My next question would be, how many other videos do you have of minors that will be released for self-gain of yourself or your friends? And why do you even have videos of 17-year-olds? Why are you even worried about what they're doing? They're teenagers. Why do you even have videos of 17-year-old children that's in a vehicle? It don't show them driving. It shows them sitting in a vehicle, doing what any 17-year-old does. So why are you out peddling videos of minors? I don't understand that. Why do you feel the need to do this and to use the children in our community for self-gain? You know, this is just my personal conclusion. I talked to Spike and I talked to Grant. I believe you're both good people in your own ways. You see things different. You have different ideals, you have different views. But both of you know what is fundamentally right and wrong. Both of you want to represent our county and represent the people in our county. But to bring up tragedies, I'm still dumbfounded. I don't understand it. And I guess I never will. All I know is, don't use our children in this community. It's, like I said before, it's tasteless. If you've got a problem with somebody, go to them and talk to them about it. If you don't like the way somebody does something, go talk to them. Be honest about it. A person can get more votes and get more done by being honest than someone that has to try to deceive, that has to try to, I don't know what you would call it. Like I said, I'm still just dumbfounded over the whole thing. You crossed the line that never should have been. But in the end, the voters will have their say. Look at, people act like that, you know, this is just something that, oh, this only goes on in Gallatin County. No, it don't. It goes on in any county that politics are involved. That's the nature of the business. I mean, look, let's take a look at Marcia Thomas, who's Boone County's prosecutor, which is running against Rick Brueggemann for circuit judge. If I had a child, or you had a child, and you was a prosecutor, you would be more harder on that child than you would somebody else. I know I would be. I knew when growing up, if I got in trouble, I didn't want my dad finding out, because I knew what the consequences would be. I knew if I got locked up or something, don't even bother to call him. When somebody else got me out, or I had the money to get out, then that's when I was getting out. And I thank my father for that. But like I said, let's just take a look at this one candidate for a minute. Her own son, she has dismissed charges against him over 20 times for reckless driving, AI, and multiple other charges. 20 times she's just on one of her sons. Spike does it one time for somebody for running a stop sign, and he is held responsible for someone's death. I don't understand the thinking on that. But then we get Mellors that state, Boone and Gallatin County deserves an impartial, experienced judge. Then I got another one that says how people prefer her over Rick Brueggemann. When in fact, there was a questionnaire sent out to around, from what I understand, 2,000 attorneys. less than 10% replied, and out of that 10%, only 58% of those said she was more qualified than her opponent. If we look into this number, I wouldn't be proud that only around 118 people out of 2,000 thought that I would make a better judge than the person I was running for. I would hope that my colleagues would stand up and say, hey, this person is going to be a phenomenal judge. I wouldn't be putting it down on writing that 58% of the people say I'll be a better this than him. I think the polls I've seen range anywhere from 53 to 58%, so I'm just going to say 58% across the board. The voters in this county need to think about that. People that responded to them, if only 58% of them said that she would make a better judge than Rick, what happened to the other 90%? They didn't even bother to respond to it. So that should tell you something. Let me tell you the first time I ever saw Miss Thomas. Sheriff Neal was holding an event in Mr. T's down there, and I recorded the event, and I had some of my cameras rolling. They was going to a drug interdiction class. People that had been to drug rehab were standing up telling people what to watch for, how long they've been clean. I still have one of my cameras going, and what really caught my attention, and I didn't know who she was at the time. I didn't even know she was Boone County's attorney at the time. She walked up to a gentleman in there, and her words was, and I can go back and pull the video and play them, but pretty much her words was, don't you just love the people that check into rehab and then come to court, hoping that you'll lighten their sentence? But then yet I see ads put out there on how she backs rehab. If you've probably seen today on the news, the one facility fell through for Northern Kentucky, the drug rehab facility. But if you was going to be a judge, why would you make a comment like that? You know, to me, if someone takes the initiative to seek help, then help them. In today's society, we sit behind keyboards. And me and my wife has talked about this, and she made a good point to me. There's not a lot of social interaction anymore. When someone sits on a keyboard and types something, they don't know the hurt that they caused the person on the other end of the keyboard. When someone responds to a post, there's no emotion in that post. People will get under anonymous names and say stuff because they won't say it to people because they're scared for whatever reason. I don't know why. Anybody that knows me, I'll tell you what's on my mind. Whether you like it or not, that's me. That just, when that was said in the setting that it was in, that kind of hit me wrong that day. And like I said, I've got to know Miss Thomas since then. I've got to know Rick and his family. They're good people. But it comes back to what I said prior. If I had a child, maybe once, twice I would help them. After that, not 20-something times while I'm sitting there prosecuting and putting on a card on how I think it was over 7,000 cases prosecuted. And people think that's a large number, but it's not. I'm going to guess Gallatin County's in the, I think she said 17 years as a prosecutor. I'm going to say Gallatin County's is probably, and I can look the number up, I'm going to say theirs is probably almost the same amount, because you got to remember that number of 7,000 over an 18-year period. Majority of them's traffic citations, speeding, and everything else. Stuff that doesn't even make it to circuit court. But you know, if I was sitting on a bench as a judge and someone took the initiative and checked herself into rehab without me telling them they had to go, I wouldn't make a comment to somebody, don't you just love the ones that expect to get a reduced sentence? To begin with, I would be thankful that they took the first step, because people, you cannot help them until they're willing to help themselves. My point on that is, why act like you for something and that you support something when you turn around and make comments like that, when you think that people's not listening and you don't know that there's cameras in the rooms and things listening. You know, I could keep going on this right here too, but I don't need to. I hope the voters will see people for what they are. In the past, they have here in Gallatin County. You all crossed a line that should have never been crossed. So now tomorrow, the voters will decide your all's fate, whether they elect you or they don't elect you. And I'll say this to you, Grant. I believe you to be a good person, but I believe you let blind ambition take over. However the election turns out tomorrow, win or lose, I hope to see you run again in 4 years. And let the people in the community to know who Grant Axton is. And this stuff here, if you was against it or had nothing to do with it, I would hope that next time you'll speak out sooner, instead of letting it go through and then waiting to see what the reaction of the people is. To tell the people in the community, I don't stand for that stuff. I had nothing to do with that. I knew nothing about it, but you can't. And we'll leave it at that. Everything here at GC Video News, we have proof of. We don't make statements or comments on here that we can't back up. And if for some reason we've made a mistake, I'll be more than happy to get right back on here and say, hey, I made a mistake on this. Hey, I was wrong about this. We're human. We do err. And if I've erred on anything here, I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and say, hey, I erred on this. Or hey, you know, there was more proof than the Kentucky State documents and Kentucky State court records. It's sad to think that out of the registered voters in our county, out of 8,000 people, I think the last election we only had a 38% turnout of voters. If people want to see change, then you have to get out to voters. You have to get people out to vote. Encourage your neighbors to vote. And as I said before, all this, these, I know the people in Gallatin County sees through it, but some people think that they're smarter than the people in this county and they don't see through it. From everyone here at the Video News, we'll see you tomorrow night. We will be broadcasting live from the Gallatin County Courthouse and giving election results and updates as they come in. I'm sorry for the families that had to be involved in this, because in no way, shape, or form do we mean to harm or hurt or say anything that would hurt either family, because you all been through enough. And as someone that lives in Gallatin County, I want to apologize to you, because people in Gallatin County don't feel this way. Yes, you're always going to have hard feelings over things, but that's what's so great about this county. We rise up, we put our differences aside. We can disagree without resorting to measures, putting fake names, addresses, sending cards out, and then sitting back and waiting to see what the response of the people is. We don't have to take recorded conversations and videos of 17-year-old children and peddling. That's not who Gallatin County is. And tomorrow, as I said, the voters will have their say. From everyone here at GC Video News, again, I'd like to apologize to the families. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening and everyone have a safe day tomorrow. Get out and vote Gallatin County. Thank you.